Good day everyone and welcome to Humss Series 7, Community Engagement, Solidarity, and Citizenship. So for this video, I'm going to summarize our discussion from PPT 1 to PPT 3 or week 1 to week 3. So this video is for the students na hindi po naka-attend ng Google Meet natin. So here we go. Okay, so first is what is community. So community or the etymology or the origin of the word community derives from the Latin word communitas, which means fellowship. And pag sinabi natin fellowship, pwede siyang gatherings or a group of people sharing common interests, etc. And the communitas has Latin roots, which is communis. And that communis, which means common. And pag sinabi po natin that we have or we sharing one particular in common, ibig sabihin tayong pagkakapatulad or pagkakapareho, which is usual na siya or karaniwan na meron talagang similarities sa atin. And then, that common has also Latin roots, which is the com and the unity, which is pag sinabi po natin com, it is, in English it means with. Pero pag sinabi naman natin unity, it's either to strengthen, to defend, or to fortify, which is, ibig sabihin po, once na meron tayong particular in common, mas napapatibay yung ating relasyon because of our similarities or because of our commonalities. And di ba sinabi ko sa inyo, there's a quote that same feathers flocks together. So sometimes it's hard to pagsamahin yung introvert and extrovert because they are totally opposite. But those people na extrovert tapos extrovert din yung nakakasama, syempre mas nagkakaroon sila ng good bonding kasi nga hindi sila opposite. So, minsan, kung sino yung mga kaugali natin, sila syempre yung mga nakakasundo natin. But still, it depends to a person. Okay po? Then, after that, how would you define the word community? So, there's a lot definition in terms of community. So, we can define the community in 3 ways. So, meron ako sinend na video sa inyo, may sinend ako na PowerPoint sa inyo and PDF. You can also read that po. So, first, community. Oftentimes, we think community as our city, our town, or our village. But it is just one way to look at them or to look at community. So, community, we can define it in geographical terms, kung saan tayo nakatira. A group of people living in one place. And that is community. Now, how about the other definition in terms of community? So, pag sinabi natin din community, it is a group of people sharing one interest, sharing one goal, or having this commonality. So, it is a group of people living in one place, sharing a particular in common. Pag sinabi natin community. So, ito daw yung mga tao na mayroong sariling paniniwala, culture, norms, practices, etc. And last one, community, dun sa video nakalagay dun, people helping people when they needed the most. So, in community, it can be called community if that community has this unity. Kumbaga, hindi mo daw masasabi na ang community ay isang community if there is no unity, no cooperation, or no what we call solidarity. Okay, so that is the community. Okay, next is we're going to differentiate the society and the community. So, we interchangeably use po the word society and community, but meron po silang pagkakaiba. So, first, we're going to differentiate the society and community in terms of people. In society, it refers to all class of people, while in community, it refers to particular group of people. So, in community, masasabi siyang community if that place or if that group have this shared interests or commonalities or similarities. But in terms of society, it refers to all class in the sense that regardless of what your culture is, your language is, your gender is, you are part of the society. And in terms of society, it composed of diverse people. When it comes to adjectival form, in society, it is social, while in community, it is communal. Pag sinabi po natin communal, it is used or shared by particular group only. For example, there's a lot of religion, born again, Catholic, and INC. In INC, hindi po sila, di ba, kumakain ng dinuguan. Pero sa iba namang grupo or sa iba namang religion, kumakain sila ng dinuguan. So, different religion, meron silang different na beliefs or different paniniwala na sa kanila lang. Hindi lahat ng religion, okay? But, in terms po sa society, since it is social, it focuses on the societal issues in our society in general. So, merong mga sectors na kinakailangan kahit iba't iba yung culture natin or practices na meron tayong sinusunod na isa. For example, lahat ng religion, even magkakaiba sila ng kung paano sila mag-worship or paano yung kanilang norms or practices, etc. Meron tayong sinusunod na isa. Like, since merong COVID, so may mga protocol tayo na 10% lang yung pwedeng papasukin sa simbahan or mag-church, ganyan, dun sa pinaka-church mismo. So, lahat ng religion yun, kahit ikaw ay iglesia, kahit ikaw ay born again, kahit ikaw ay Catholic, kailangan mo sumunod dun sa protocol na binigay sa atin ng ating government. So, that is the difference in terms of adjectival form, in terms of social, in terms of communal. Okay po? Next po is the sizes. So, since the society refers to all class of people, it is bigger than the community. So, the community po is smaller than the society. So, there's a lot of communities in the society. That's why po, society composed of diverse people. The community is just a piece or just a part of the society. Okay? Next is the trait. Pag sinabi po nating trait, ano yung meron sa mga practices or norms nila. So, in terms of society, it is heterogeneous, while in the community, it is homogeneous. So, pag sinabi po natin sa science, pag mga homogeneous, it means alike. So, magkakatulad lang or merong shared interests, similarities, commonalities, pag sa community. Pag sinabi naman natin hetero, mix. Kaya nga sinabi ko kanina na pag sinabi nating society, it composed of diverse people. If it is composed of diverse people, yung mga traits nila, yung mga norms nila, o yung mga practices nila is iba-iba. Okay? Next is in territory. So, the society, a group of people with a common territory and culture interacting with one another, while in community, a group of people living in the same place or having a particular in common. So, example po natin dito is, kahit ikaw taga Luzon, Mindanao, or taga Visayas, nakatira tayo sa one territory which is the Philippines. Pero pag sinabi po natin community, yun na po yung talaga may specific place na nakareside tayo. In terms of locality, halos tulad lang sila. So, in terms of society, geographic area is not an essential. Kumbaga, ano naman kung malayo ka sa akin, parehas pa rin naman tayo ng lupang tinatapakan, which is earth pa din, okay? Pero in community, kinakailangan, there's a definite locality kasi in terms of place, dun din nagkakaroon tayo ng building of a community. For example, kung hindi naman tayo nasa sa isang lugar, hindi rin tayo magkakaroon ng connection sa isa't isa. Kung hindi ako nagtrabaho dito sa Olivares, kung hindi kayo nag-aral dito sa Olivares, hindi rin tayo magkakaroon ng community. Okay? So, in terms of sentiment, the we feeling sentiment in terms of society may be seen or may not be seen. But in terms of community, the we feeling sentiment is essential. So, the we feeling, pag sinabi natin we feeling, is the feeling of belongingness. Kumbaga, parte ka talaga nun. So, since in society, dito natin masasabi that hindi natin mapiplease lahat. But in community, kumbaga, pumasok ka na doon, there's a sense of belongingness na kasi meron kayong commonalities, meron kayong similarities. Okay? In terms of objectives, pag sinabi natin society, it is wider or broader kaysa sa community. Bakit mas more extensive and varied in society? Kasi nga, it composed of diverse people. Pero pag sinabi naman natin community, it is less extensive and less varied since kaya nga sila nagsama-sama kasi meron na silang shared interest or shared goal. Okay? Okay, next is why do we need to learn and understand the community? So we need to learn and understand community to appreciate the daily interaction in our lives. So para ma-appreciate natin na bawat segundo na pakikipag-usap natin sa ibang tao ay mahalaga. No man is an island. So we need to interact to one another. Kailangan natin na makisalamuha, makipag-socialize sa ibang tao. And then, we will realize that we are part of a larger group. We are part of a bigger group. Okay? So, parang hindi lang tayo nag-iisa. Doon natin marirealize kung gaano ka-importansya yung salamuha sa ibang tao. And then, dito, magiging aware tayo kung ano na po ba yung estado ng ating bansa, estado ng ating community, or estado ng ating society. Okay? So next is we're going to discuss the different perspectives of the community. So first is the social science perspective, which focuses the histories and origins of the man, wherein different fields, nandyan yung mga anthropology, sociology, psychology. So it talks about humanity, okay? Then it talks about the social dimensions of individual life, the interaction or the daily interaction of a person to one another, to each other, how he or she socialize to one another, ganyan. And then, nakalagay dyan that a community has loosely boundaries. So as long as we interact to one another, ang community natin is na-expand. That's why we are belong to more than one community kasi there's no limitation or na-expand siya, and it depends on us kung gusto nating maging parte pa ng isang malaking community. And then, pag sinabi natin loosely, pwede siyang detachable, pwede rin siyang maalis. Kumbaga, ikaw, meron kang isang religion, tapos parang nag-iba ka ng religion, mga ganun. So, it is detachable. Kumbaga, dati INC ka, tapos nag-shift ka ng ibang religion, kung nag-born again ka, ganyan. So, ibang community naman na yon. Ibang practices, ibang norms na yon. Next is a community can be within communities. Ibig sabihin po, there's a lot communities in a community. An example po natin dyan is the school. Ang school po ay school community. Isang community din siya. In school, merong senior high school community, college community, students community, section, iba't iba pa yung section natin. May mga Taurus community, Phoenix community, Libra community, Hercules community, Leo community, etc. So, in that section, meron pa kayong mga group. So, pwede pa natin sabihin na class officers community, etc. Even the maintenance community, even the clubs, meron tayong mga ministry club, dance club, young artist club, etc. So, communities can be within communities. So, even sa ating mga barangay. So, first, our community is our family. Then, once na ikaw ay lumabas ng iyong bahay, you are part of iba't iba pang community. Merong religion community, neighborhood community, meron pang mga basketball community, volleyball community, etc. etc. Okay? And then, communities may move in the sense na pag kayo ay nag-migrate, syempre, doon madadagdagan yung inyong mga traits, culture, norms, or pwede rin naman yung mga norms nyo dati, hindi nyo na gagawin dun sa inyong next community. So, dito makikita natin how we adapt to a certain place na bago pa lang tayo. Next is building community through modern technology. So, there's a lot of social media platforms wherein nakakabuild din tayo dun ng community. Sa Facebook, sa YouTube, sa Instagram, and kahit saan mga application. So, meron dyan mga group, mga page na belong tayo or nag-join tayo. Okay? Next is the institutional perspective. So, before that, the social institution po and the institution is differ to each other. Pag sinabi nating social institution, those are the backbone of the society or that makes up the society. In Tagalog, ito po yung mga uri ng lipunan. At alam po natin pag uri ng lipunan, ang uri ng lipunan ay yung government, market, hospital, school, and the family. So those are the backbone that makes up the society. Those are the establishment or facilities na meron po tayo sa isang society. Pag sinabi naman natin institution, those are the establishment rules or regulation, laws, norms, practices in every social institution. So in every social institution or in every establishment, there's a such rules and laws na kinakailangan na i-obey and i-obey. Okay? Even in classroom, meron tayong mga rules and regulation. So, meron akong linagay dyan that regulation is not always the antithesis of the freedom. It can be its ally. So, ibig sabihin po nun, hindi po natin siyang gawing kaaway, kundi gawin natin siyang kakampi. Kasi, according to Geoffrey Hudson, the institution are both enable behavior and constraint. Kumbaga, kaya meron tayong rules and regulation. This is for our safety. This is for us to feel secure and to feel comfortable. If there is no rules and regulation and traffic lights, syempre magkakaroon ng bungguan at lalong-lalo magkakaroon ng aksidente. If there is no rules in terms of language, syempre hindi tayo magkakaroon or hindi tayo magkakaintindihan. And even because perfect example is yung mga games na nilalaro natin, ML, COD, or ROS. So, we need to know the rules and regulation of that game so then we can win the game. Kasi kung hindi natin alam, magi-game over tayo. Diba po? So, those rules and regulation, i-treat natin siya as kakampi at hindi kaaway. Kasi sometimes, tayo mga tao or tayo mga Pilipino, pag nakarinig tayo ng mga batas-batas, feeling natin nawawala na yung mga rights natin. Okay po? Next is yung the formal and the informal institution. So, pag sinabi po natin formal institution, those are the legally codified documents which is written. Meron tayong mga written laws, batas, na talagang in general siya. For example, is the Bill of Rights of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. Pero pag sinabi po natin informal institution, those are just the custom, the practices, the norms na nakasanayan na natin. Kumbaga, hindi siya written documents, pero ginagawa natin. Like, yung pagrespeto sa mga matatanda, pagsabi ng po at opo, hindi siya written, pero norms na siya or practice na siya ng mga Pilipino na talagang gumamit ng po at opo every nakikipag-usap, lalo na sa mga matatanda. Okay? Next is the civil society perspective. In civil society perspective po, it is distinct to the state and the market. So, ito po yung mga NGO o yung mga PO or non-government organization and people organization na kung saan tinutulungan nila yung mga taong hindi natutulungan ng public government. So, ito po yung mga bantay bata. Kung may makikita kayong mga lata dyan sa mga mang-inasal na may mga bantay bata. So, those organization, hindi po siya linagay dyan para kumita sila or para ilagay yung pera sa bulsa nila. So, those organization are non-for-profit. Okay? And then, in terms of civil society, meron tayong mga social movement. So, meron tayong 4. Which is the first is the reactionary movement. In terms of reactionary movements, they tend to react to the new changes because they want to preserve and restore the values, the culture na meron tayo. In terms of conservative movement, they strongly resist change kasi they want to protect the existing ko. Kumbaga sila yung parang mga matatanda sa atin during nung mga maliliit pa tayo, ganyan-ganyan, na napaka-conservative, na hanggang sa ngayon ayaw bitawan yung mga culture na wala na or nalaos na ngayong period na to. Next is the reform movement. So they want to change a specific area without destroying the whole system. Kumbaga, para siyang thesis na hindi mo naman totally revision, may i-revise lang ng konti, ganon. Pero pag sinabi naman nating revolutionary movement, ito naman, they want or they seek a new social order because they don't want the existing through violence. So, nagkakaroon ng mga revolution kasi nga, ayaw na nila nung nakikita nila. So, kailangan mabura na lahat or kailangan ma-revise na lahat. Tulad ng ginawa ng KKK, nag-revolution sila against sa mga Kastila. Next po is the organic perspective or the grassroots level. So ito po yung mga maliliit na manggagawa or workers na meron sa isang community. So example po natin dito yung mga isda, yung mga magsasaka na kinakailangan ng new set of skills and new set of lessons para maka-adapt sila sa makabagong mundo or maka-adapt sila sa modern world. Okay? So LGU or the local government units help those workers para mas level up po yung kanilang system in terms of doing their products, etc. Okay? So those are the perspectives of the community. Next po, we're going to discuss the functions of the community. So ano po ba yung mga function ng isang community? So first is the production, distribution, and consumption. In terms of production, ito yung producing goods, services. Pag sinabi naman natin distribution, ito yung supplying goods in each place, etc. Pag sinabi naman natin consumption, it is using up of all the resources. In terms of production, distribution, and consumption, papasok yan sa economy ng ating bansa. And dyan po papasok that the community must provide its member livelihood through the use of resources. So kinakailangan daw mag-provide ang community ng mga pangkabuhayan para sa kanyang members na nasasakupan to provide all the necessities in life ng isang member ng isang community. Okay? So yun, production, distribution, and consumption. Next naman is the socialization. So we need to socialize to one another, to each other, to other people, to instill our traits, the norms, and the practices in the culture. So para maipasa natin yung mga culture na meron tayo or mga beliefs na meron tayo, we need to socialize to one another. Next naman is the social control. So, in terms of social control, dito po papasok yung mga laws, mga rules and regulation, ganyan. Kasi nga, tulad ng sinabi ko last time, if there's no such laws, everything will be in chaos. So, one of the function of the community is to have a social pressure that will set the conduct and the good behavior of a member of the community. Next naman is the social participation. So, communities thrive through association and clubs na kung saan pwedeng sumali itong mga members ng isang community. So, dito mo makikita na nagpo-provide talaga sila ng mga organization na pwedeng makasali itong mga members natin. In school community po, di ba, meron tayong different clubs na kung saan malaya po kayo kung anong gustong club ang gusto nyong piliin. Next naman is mutual support. So, in terms of community, it encourage cooperation and solidarity. So, kinakailangan po ay hilahan lagi pataas, hindi hilahan pa baba. Okay? Is the elements that connects the individual and the community. So, sabi nga natin, pag sinabi natin community, meron dapat connection or similarities and commonalities. So, interrelationship and organization are the elements that connects in the individual and the community. Bakit? Pag sinabi po natin interrelationship, ito yung nagbibigay sa atin ng connection sa ibang tao. At ang nagbibigay sa atin ng connection sa ibang tao is our similarities, our commonalities, our shared interests, our shared culture, common cultural heritage, language, etc. So, we are interconnected to each other. Hindi lang natin siya nare-realize or hindi lang natin siya napapansin. But we are interconnected to one another. Pag sinabi naman natin organization, ito yung mga organization na meron sa atin sa barangay, ganyan. So, it serves as the initiators of community action. Pag sinabi natin initiators, sila yung nag-i-initiate to start a new or to start change, ganyan. Di ba sabi ko sa inyo nga, lahat naman tayo gusto ng pagbabago, pero hindi lahat ay gustong magbago. Ibig sabihin po, kailangan yung pagbabago na gusto natin ay nagsisimula muna sa ating sarili para makita natin yung changes na meron tayo. Pero kung hindi tayo nagbabago, kung wala namang changes mismo sa sarili natin, paano natin makikita yung pag-unlad or improvement in our community or in our society? So, different organization po, sila rin yung nagbibigay sa atin para tayo ay makabuild o maging parte ng isang community. That's why the interrelationship and the organization are the elements that connects the individual and the community. Okay? So next is we're going to discuss the different elements of a community. So first is the economic element. So in terms of economic element, dyan po papasok yung extraction, production, distribution, consumption, and then disposal. Dyan din po, so yun ay na-discuss na rin natin in terms of functions of a community, that the community must provide its member livelihood through the use of resources. So, ang ating mga pinuproduce na goods and services is galing lang din sa ating environment or our mother nature. And then, dyan po rin papasok yung supply and demand. Pag mataas ang supply, mababa ang demand. Pag taas ang demand, mababa ang supply. So, the law of supply and law of demand affects the price of the goods. So, kapag mababa ang supply, mataas ang demand, mataas din ang presyo. Pero pag mababa ang supply, ay mababa ang demand, tapos mataas ang supply, mababa ang presyo. For example is yung sa mask natin, saka yung facial natin, sinabi ko rin sa discussion natin, na kung saan nakita natin yung difference ng presyo nila. So dati kasi, since mababa pa or limited lang yung supply ng face mask at face shield, sobrang tataas ng presyo. Pero nung nalaman na nila or nagkaroon na ng mataas na supply, nakapagpagawa na ng madami, naging mababa na ang presyo. From 80 pesos na face shield or 60 pesos na face shield, ngayon po makakabili na lang tayo ng 10 pesos na face shield per piece. From 250 pesos or 200 pesos, 50 pieces mask, ngayon po ay 90 pesos na lang, 50 pieces na mask na. Okay? So, dun po papasok yung mga yon sa economic element. Okay? Okay, next is the technology element. In terms of technology, it is derived from the Greek word techni in logia. Pag sinabi natin techni, it means art. Pag sinabi natin logia, it means sum of techniques, methods, processes, strategies, etc. And pag sinabi po natin technology, hindi lang siya talaga yung mismong gadgets, machines, na nakikita natin in a modern society. So, nagsimula po tayo nung mga panahon Paleolithic period or mga old stone age, kung saan bato pa lang ginagamit natin, kahoy pa lang nagagamit natin to produce fire, etc. But nowadays, since high-tech na, hindi na ganun kahirap talaga, so technology makes our life easier. So through those tools or through the technology, mas napapadali po yung ating gawain or mas napapadali ang ating buhay. But there are certain disadvantages din, and nasa sa atin din kung paano natin gagamitin yung technology. So, ang technology kasi ginawa para sa mga tao, pero sometimes nakikita natin in a modern world that nakokontrol na tayo ng technology. Na paggising natin sa umaga, ang hanap natin ay cellphone. Na pagtulog natin sa gabi, ang kaharap natin, cellphone. And even yung mga bata ngayon, mga 2 years old, 3 years old, hindi na nila na-enjoy yung kabataan nila na nasusugatan, napapawisan. Ngayon, nagbiblink-blink na yung mata kasi nga sobrang tutok na sa cellphone. Ayun po. Next is the political element. In terms of political element, so we need politics. Kasi nga, ito yung mag-govern or mag-guide, magbibigay ng rules and regulation sa isang society or sa isang community. So, okay naman, nagkakaroon tayo ng voting system, election, meron tayong mga representatives that will make laws for us, ganyan. But sometimes, meron din mga disadvantages in the sense na pag nandyan na sila, nakalagay na sila sa ang dami nilang platforms sa umpisa, pero at the end, nagiging puro salita na lang, kulang na lang sila sa gawa. But meron din naman talaga na marami din na talagang nandyan sa posisyon at ginagawa nila kung ano yung nararapat or ano talaga yung deserve natin mga Pilipino. Kung ano talaga yung deserve natin, yun talaga yung binibigay nila. Okay? So may mga mayor or may mga governor or in position na talagang efficient and effective. Next is the social or the institutional element. So here, pinagsama yung socialization and yung institution, which is yung mga customs, yung mga practices or norms na meron tayo. So in terms of So next is the social or institutional element. So here, pinagsama yung socialization and yung institution or the laws, rules, practices, customs, ganyan. Kumbaga, in socializing daw, kinakailangan meron or alam natin yung mga practices nila, yung norms nila, para mas madali or mas smooth yung pakikipag-socialize natin. Kumbaga, pag alam natin yung religion niya, kung alam natin yung culture niya, yung practices or beliefs na pinaniniwalaan natin, hindi tayo magkakaroon ng problema. Kasi alam mo yun. Alam mo yung mga practices na meron siya. Kumbaga, ito na rin yung magiging, para maging sensitive tayo sa kung ano yung nasasabi natin, etc. Ganyan. But nowadays, because of the technology nga rin, nagkakaroon ng division. Kumbaga, di ba nga, we use technology for the fastest communication, pero ito na rin yung mismo nagde-divide sa atin. Bakit? Kasi kakain na lang, cellphone pa, parang may banding ang tropa, nakatutok sa cellphone. Ayan, kumbaga nawawala na yung interaction natin sa isa't isa, gawa ng mga cellphones na meron tayo. Ayan. Next naman is the aesthetic value element. So we have own perspective of good, bad, right, wrong, ugly, and beautiful. So, since tayo nga po ay unique, individual, don't expect na yung perspective mo is perspective din niya, na ang tama para sa iyo ay tama din para sa kanya. Pwedeng sabihin natin na mali yun para sa kanya kasi yun yung perspective niya, or tama yun para sa kanya kasi yun yung perspective niya. Kasi sometimes, lagi tayo nag-aaway-away because of our own beliefs or our own culture or our own perspective. So, pag alam po natin yung or naging sensitive tayo sa mga sinasabi nga natin or alam natin yung mga pinaniniwalaan natin, maiiwasan natin yung gulo. Kasi hindi naman daw porque tama ka, ay mali ako. Ganun. Tao ka lang din, or parang ganun. Okay? Nagigets po? So, in terms of ugly and beautiful naman, we set standards kasi na kung ano yung maganda, ito dapat yun. Kung anong pangit, ito yun. Wala naman daw kasing taong maganda at taong pangit. Kasi nga, tayo mga Pilipino lang ang nagbibigay ng definisyon kung ano ang maganda at ano ang pangit. Okay? So, we have different perspectives. Next is the belief conceptual element, so which is connected to the aesthetic value element. So, kung ano po yung ating mga beliefs or yung mga concept or ideas na meron tayo, yun yung ginagamit natin para makita kung ano yung tama at mali, or yun yung mga nagiging decision natin sa buhay. And also in terms of beliefs and conceptual, dito rin yung yung pinaniniwalaan mo yung mga purpose, ano kayong purpose mo, saan ka galing, ganyan, paano nagawa ang mundo. So nasa sa atin yun, kung ano yung perspective natin or pananaw natin dun sa mga bagay-bagay na yun. Okay? Next is the structural dimensions of a community. In elements, we discuss the different parts or characteristic that is essential in community. In structural dimension, ito yung magiging basis to measure each community. So first po is the geographic dimension. So the physical location affects the livelihood or the lifestyle of every community. So hindi na natin i-question yung mga mangingisda kung bakit mangingisda sila kung ang lugar nila ay malapit sa dagat. So hindi na natin i-questionan yung mga farmers kung bakit mga magsasaka lahat sila, halos magsasaka, kung ang makikita natin sa physical na lokasyon ay talagang puro fields. Next is we cannot, hindi na natin question yung mga taga North Pole or South Pole, bakit lagi silang naka-jacket ng mga par, yung mga makakapal. Kasi alam naman natin na ang weather din talaga is sobrang lalamig. Okay? So yun po yung sa geographic dimension. So the lifestyle or the livelihood is naka-connect din dun sa physical location na meron ang isang community or na meron ang community nila. Next naman is the economic element. So tulad lang din halos ng economic dimension, tulad lang din ng dun sa economic element, which is the production, distribution, and consumption. So in each place, meron pa rin yung trade, pakikipagkalakalan sa kalapit lugar or karatig lugar, ganyan. Next is the socio-political dimension. So ito, paano kaya yung pakikipag-socialize niya sa nasasakupan niya. So, it is between to the citizen and the politicians. Kumbaga, sometimes compare talaga natin na yung mga mayor dito is okay, tas dito naman ay hindi. So, it is how they handle the community, kung paano nila i-handle, kung paano nila pamumunuan yung kanilang nasasakupan in terms of socio-political dimension. Kaya pinagsama yung socio at saka yung political. So next is the community dynamics and processes. So last time din sinabi ko sa inyo na pag sinabi natin community dynamics, those are the change and improvements in one society. And in terms of community dynamics or changes or improvement in society, we need a power structure. So meron tayong formal power structure and informal power structure. Pag sinabi natin formal power structure, meron siyang process. Kumbaga dumaan siya sa legal process kasi binoto natin sila, and they can also be called as the legal authoritative makers, na kung saan sila yung mga mayor, barangay captain, congressman, etc. And then meron din tayong mga informal power structure, which is the influencer. Ang example natin dyan is yung mga YouTubers na kung saan wala silang posisyon, hindi sila mayor or what, pero nakaka-encourage sila or yung boses nila ay talagang napupukaw ang atensyon ng mga mamamayan. Okay? Next is we're going to discuss the different types of community. So first is the urban-rural typology, which focuses the industrialization, the livelihood, the lifestyle, and the ecological conditions of a community. So more on dito, pag urban, syempre syudad siya, pag mga rural, probinsya. So pag rural, more on idyllic sceneries and peaceful, sobrang mapayapa. Pag mga urban, alam naman natin sa syudad, sa Maynila, sobrang gugulo, traffic, sobrang init, ganyan. In terms of rural, agriculture, marami magsasaka, mangingisda. Pero pag sa urban, more on pabrika, factory, ganyan. Next is the formal and informal. So formal and informal typology is differ to urban and rural typology. Pag sinabi po natin informal and formal typology, it focuses on the task or the goal of the specific or the members of that community. Kumbaga, ano yung ginagawa nila, ganyan. So, in terms of formal community, ang example ko po sa inyo is yung group of teachers in Olivares College, Tagaytay, which is well-planned or deliberately in terms of formation. Ibig sabihin, bago kami napunta dito, bago nyo kami naging teacher, may process kaming ginawa, nagpasa ng requirements, nag-demo, and then ayun, basta may process siya. Pero in terms of informal, like yung mga friends nyo or yung circle of friends nyo, it is unplanned or voluntarily in the sense na hindi na kailangan ng process na kailangan mag-demo, kailangan magpasa ng requirements para maging part siya ng friendship nyo. Ganyan. In terms of the sizes naman, the formal community is bigger than the Then the informal community. Okay, next is in terms of leadership, there is no official leader in terms of informal. So, walang official leader sa mga friends, sa mga tropahan nyo. But kami, there's an official leader in the sense na kailangan namin sundin yung aming mas nakakataas sa amin, which is yung strand coordinator, yung boss namin, yung principal namin, ganyan. And in terms of structure, meron kami different tasks na kailangan gawin namin kasi yun yung trabaho namin. Pero pag in circle of friends, it is no structure. In the sense, hindi mo naman sabihin, kailangan or diktahan yung friend mo na, oh, ito task 1 mo, ito yung gagawin mo, oh, ito yung bukas na gagawin mo. So, hindi ganon. In terms of relationship, so, professional dapat. Kasi, hindi naman porke nagtatampo ko dun sa aking principal or dun sa aking or even sa mga co-workers ko, kailangan irap-irapan ko sila, kailangan hindi ko sila pansinin. So, kahit gaano man ang nangyayari or may problema man, we need to act professionally. But in friends, so since it is personal, pwede mo siyang ipakita na nagtatampo talaga siya na hindi kayo papansinin, ganyan. Kasi nga, in terms of informal, more on psychological needs and more on personal needs. Next is the local and the global typology. So, pag sinabi natin local, community, ito na yung mga city-city, yung mga barangay-barangay. Pag sinabi naman natin global community, ito na yung sa buong mundo na, which is marami tayong issues na hindi lang Pilipinas ang nakakaranas. Example natin is yung COVID, which is pandemic. Hindi lang tayo mga Pilipino nakakaranas ng COVID, buong mundo. Global warming, buong mundo din yon. Climate change, buong mundo din. So, yun yung kinakailangan i-focus in terms of global. So, in local community, meron tayong barangay ngayon na problema. And nalaman niyo yan doon sa interview natin sa week 2, virtual interview. Diba may mga tanong doon kung ano yung mga issues or problems ng organization nila, etc. Ganyan. In terms of sectoral community, it can also be called as the civil society in the sense that it is non-for-profit. So, ito yung mga non-government organization na kung saan hindi sila ginawa para kumita, ginawa sila para makatulong sa ibang tao na talagang nangailangan ng tulong. Next is the physical or virtual community na kung saan even the social media platforms, di ba, tulad ng sinabi ko, we can build a community. In terms of physical space, meron tayong mga place na para sa atin, yun na yung pinakatambayan natin. For example, ang 7-Eleven sa may kanto, yun ay tambayan ng OC or tambayan ng mga estudyante ng OC. Yung canteen, tambayan din ng estudyante ng OC. Okay? So, that's all and thank you po. Bye-bye!
Good day everyone, my name is Formal-Infomal Community.